Hey guys, it's Jen, and I'm here with part 2 of my July wrap-up. So, as I said in the previous video, I read a total of 19 books in July, so I split up my wrap-up so it wouldn't be super long. So the first book I have to show you today that I read in the month of July is The Crown's Game by Evelyn Skye. I read this book for my book club, and I also read it during the booktubeathon, and I gave this one a 4 out of 5. I thought it was a really good start to the series, and I really enjoyed it a lot. It was a little bit slow in some parts for me, so that is why I took off 1 star. But I am really looking forward to reading the next book in this series. I believe it's only a duology, so there's only the 2 books in the series. This one takes place in an alternate history Russia, where there is magic, and it's like the Hunger Games with magic, kind of, I guess. Because there is like a tournament going on. The winner is the only one that will live, but there is only 2 people, and there is some romance that goes on. But overall, I thought this was a really great first book, and like I said, I'm really looking forward to the next one. The next book that I read in July was The Spindlers by Lauren Oliver. This is a middle grade fantasy, which is kind of like a changeling type of situation. Liza's brother has his soul stolen by the Spindlers, and she has to go rescue it. And so to go rescue it, she has to go below. In the below, there's like talking rats and just a bunch of strange creatures under, and she has to find her way to her brother's soul and save it before the Spindlers do whatever they do with souls. But I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5. I liked it, but I didn't love it. It didn't really grab me like I had hoped, but it was still good. So the next book that I read was an ebook, and that was The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. Everyone basically knows the story of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I had never read it, so I read it for booktubeathon, and I gave it 3 out of 5. I'm not really, like, I enjoy classics, but I don't go crazy for them. But I did enjoy this one more than I do the usual classic because it was a quick read, and there was a lot of dialogue. Which I like in classics. But I mean, it was essentially what I expected. I liked it. Didn't love it. Yeah. The next book that I read was Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. You guys, I listened to this one on audiobook, and there were so many feelings, so many tears. Like, despite the fact that I've read this book like 10 times, it still gets me every time. Like, I mean, too many people die in this book. Too many people die. I mean, right from the beginning, and it's too much. Too much. But it was such a good experience listening to this one. Luckily, nobody walked past me when I was walking the dog crying, because they probably would have wondered what the hell was wrong with me. But it was such a good listen, and I can't wait to read them again. I can't wait. Like, I finished Harry Potter, and I'm just like, I am so ready to read it again. But I loved it. 5 out of 5, obviously, and just too many feels. So the next book that I read was The Side of the Grave by Janine Frost. I listened to this one on audiobook, and I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It's not my favorite of her series, but I still really enjoy it. Like, I love Cat and Bones, and I love listening to this one. It's an adult paranormal. If you're not familiar with the series, it's the Night Huntress series. This one was, I believe it was the 5th book in the series, and I love this series, and it's like a guilty pleasure for me. I don't know, adult paranormal romance is like a guilty pleasure for me. I love reading it. They just fly by for me, and I just love Cat and Bones. I love all the characters, really. I love all her main characters that she has created in this world, and I just can't get enough of them. So I gave that one 4 out of 5. And then the next book that I read was One Grave at a Time, also by Janine Frost. This one was the 6th book in the series, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I don't really want to go into any details on these because they are so far in the series. I don't want to spoil anyone, but just Cat and Bones, they have amazing chemistry, and the narrator for these books does an amazing job, and I just love listening to her narrations of them because they're just so good. So the next book that I read was Soulless by Gail Carriger. It is the first book in the Paracel Protectorate series. I think that's how you pronounce it. I'm not sure, but it is her adult series that is based in the same world as the Finishing School series that's further in the future, and I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I just love her world. This one takes place around a spinster. I mean, she's in her 20s, so I mean, she's not that old, but I guess back in the Victorian era, that was old. You probably weren't going to get married. So it takes place in the Victorian era. It's steampunk, of course, and there are werewolves, there are vampires, and there is our main character who is called a preternatural, which means she doesn't have a soul. So if she touches a vampire or a werewolf, she essentially makes them human and takes away their power and makes them human. So this one basically goes following our main character, Alexia, who is, in addition to being a preternatural, she is half Italian, which is apparently a big no-no, because I don't know why, but I love her. She's sassy and she's hilarious, and I just couldn't get enough of her. So it revolves around her, and there's vampires that are disappearing, and like there's a vampire that dies who nobody knows, and then there's like this whole investigation into it, and of course she's right in the middle of it. So yeah, but it's really good. I definitely recommend this series. I love Gail Carriger. She is now one of my favorite authors because I have just loved everything I've read by her so far. The next book that I read in July was Harry Potter and the Cursed Child. So all of my rereading the Harry Potter was in anticipation for this. Like, I could not wait for this. And I know a lot of people didn't like it because it's a play, but I actually really enjoy reading plays because I was in drama in high school, and I find it very easy to read plays, and I don't need all of the descriptions that a book would give. But 5 out of 5 stars for this one because I absolutely loved it. It was pretty much everything I wanted. I have a separate review for this one that I'll be posting, but I absolutely love this, and I would definitely recommend it. I did hear, I know not everyone loved it, but it was exactly what I wanted, and I will go more into that in my review. So the last book that I read was a novella, and it was Home for the Holidays by Janine Frost. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. It was just a little novella in between the 6th book and the first book of her Night Prince series, which revolves around Vlad, who is Dracula, for those of you who haven't read the series. But I really enjoyed it. It was really good, and I just can't wait to continue on and read. Like, I've been reading the whole series in order of publication, so like all the books in the world. So the next one isn't going to be the last book in the Night Huntress series. I'm going to be reading the first one in the Night Prince series because there's spoilers in some of those books for the last one, the last Night Huntress book, so I don't want to get spoiled. So yeah, those are the other 9 books that I read in the month of July. Let me know down below if you've read any of them, and if you did, what you thought of them. And I'll see you guys later. Bye!